Hello everyone and welcome to 3 Colors Up. In this one I'm going to be taking the Deuce Cygnar Warjack from the 2-player starter set for Warmachine for the Cygnar faction. And we're going to be painting that up to be quite nice and easy to follow. Not too many fancy techniques, just a bit of wash, a little bit of edge highlighting and stuff like that, just to make something like this pop a little bit, because Warjacks are immense. They're my favourite models out of the whole range. Who would have thought it? So yeah, we're keeping it nice and simple, straightforward, and hopefully the end result will be nice looking on the tabletop. And yeah, let's just sit down and get on with it.
So to get started with Deuce here, Deuce, whatever. We're going to start in a similar way that I started the Cygnar Warjack as well. So what I tend to do with Warjacks and larger sort of mechanical models is start with the hardest to reach details, the innermost details. So for example on Deuce here, we have armor plate and stuff that's going to go blue with a little bit of black trim and gold trim, but on the inside of that we've got all this mechanical stuff in and around the legs and in and under the torso and between the arms and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is do all that metallic work first, and then we can work our way up through other materials. So we want to start with that and then hit our other major base colors on the way out. So what we're going to do for our first color is some plate mail metal from Army Painter Fanatics, and this will cover all our mechanical details and our mechanical parts. So get some of that onto our palette, move that to the side, and I'm not going to be overly subtle with the brush size. I'm going to take a fairly larger sort of basey kind of brush. I'm using some Green Stuff World Silver Series Galinsky brushes. This is the size 2. All we want to do is put a little bit of water on the brush and just stir up a little bit of the paint on the palette. And it's just going to be a case of picking out all the details that we want to go silver. So for example, right in here, and we'll focus on those metallic parts, the parts that we're definitely going to keep silver throughout the whole painting process. So we have the plate mail now down. As you can see, it is quite a messy first step, which is why I wanted to do it first, and then every other layer on top of that will start to tidy this up and clean it a little bit. But it's fairly extensive. Looking good so far. So we're going to move on to our main color, our signature blue for Cygnar. And for that I have chosen Royal Blue from the Fanatic range. I think this is going to be a good solid color to get down for our armor and really will make this model pop, particularly once it's all shaded and highlighted back up again. So taking the same brush I used for the silver, my number 2 brush, and this is just going to be a case of every panel I want to be blue will now go blue. Simple as that. We may need more than one coat, but it depends what the coverage is like. These Fanatic paints are fairly forgiving when you apply them quite heavily as well. They do tend to dry quite nicely. So let's just go on ahead and get everything colored in the blue. But you can see how nice and rich a blue that is, and I think it's going to suit very nicely for Cygnar. With the Royal Blue down, we have basically the majority of our Warjack with some paint on it, and so far so good, looking alright. Might need to do a little bit of tidy up here and there, but all in all that's fine. Did take a while to get in and around all the niggly little parts and stuff like that, but hey, we're there. Might do a bit of tidy up later on, probably towards the end of the tutorial. So with that done, we're going to move on to our next color, and this is going to be our matte black, and this is going to be for parts of our trim. So let me just get some on the palette here, and then what we're going to be doing is the likes of this panel up here, and then this area. Probably leave that bit gold, but we'll carry that black down onto these larger parts here. We'll probably do the top of the head with the black and then use the bottom for gold. And let me see, is there anywhere else we really want to try with this? Probably, oh, I will probably do maybe one knee pad, maybe both knee pads. The bottom part of them is going to be gold. I might do the top black. Yeah, I'll probably do at least that one black, just to make it stand out a little bit more, give us a bit of variation. Other than that, there's not too much. Maybe do these little pieces back here in black, but that's about it. So we'll go ahead and just start base coating these areas in. With our black now down, you can see we're getting a little bit more visual interest being built up into our Warjack. I've also went ahead and painted the inside of the muzzles on the two guns, just to get that little detail done and out of the way before we go too far on. Now the next thing I want to do is tackle our symbology, and there's only really two pieces here. So we have the big Cygnar symbol on the top of the armor, and then we have this number 2, this Roman numeral here. And I have seen on the box art they do this in white and then this in yellow, but because Cygnar, the yellow is quite prominent on a lot of the infantry figures, I just want to keep with that, and I'm going to do this and the Roman numeral in yellow. And for that, we're going to be using Inner Light. It's a nice, rich yellow, and when we come to our wash step, it should tone down rather nicely. So make sure we get that on the palette. Now, because this is a yellow, even if it is the Fanatic yellow, it's going to need a couple of coats just to settle in properly. So what we want to do is just take our time, put one coat down, let it dry, and then apply a second. So even though the Fanatic paints are pretty darn excellent, the yellow, still a forgiving colour, is still going to require a little bit more attention. With our yellow down, it took about 2 to 3 coats to get me as solid a finish as I wanted, and it looks pretty good. I quite like that Roman numeral in there. It's very easy to paint. Now we're going to be moving on to the next colour, which is going to be gold. For that, we're going to use some bright gold. We used a darker one on the Cygnar, so it only seemed fitting to use a little bit of a brighter one for our Cygnar. So make sure that's mixed properly. Should be all right. And this is just for all our trim and a few other details floating around here and there. So, for example, I want to paint the lower part of the chin on the head. So all this segment here. I want to fill in these little raised pieces there, and I want to do the edging on the armor panels as well. So we have plenty to do, as well as the ammunition feeds for the two guns, the two big pieces, the two big guards on top of the exhaust, or the back anyway, these two panels here, and then we're going to do the tops of the coils as well. There's other stuff to do there, but that's where we're going to be going with the majority of our gold. So just a case of getting stuck in and see what we come up with. So with the gold down now, we have basically all our main colours sorted. So what we want to do now is start to wash this down a little bit. And I say a little bit, but we're going to be going with some dark tone. This will settle really nice and leave us a well shaded model for when we come to do a little bit of highlighting, because the Warjacks always deserve a little bit of highlighting when you're painting them, particularly if you're doing a fairly simple scheme. The highlighting really brings the shape and the heft of the model back out again. So just going to take our dark tone and just start to work it in to the shape of the model. We don't want it to pull too much in any one particular area, but it won't dry too badly over this blue. We just have to be careful not to leave it too streaky. And we'll just go over everything here and start to shade down. So with the wash down and dry, we can see just how much more shading and how much more heavy that blue looks. It still looks nice and rich, but at the same time has a bit more heft to it, and our details are a little more defined. So we're going to move on to a highlighting step. And for this, I thought that Arctic Gem would be quite a nice contrasty blue to sort of just highlight some of the edges, just to bring it up a little bit. Now, really at this point, you could do a couple more steps. You could paint in the coils on the back in a light blue and give them a wash. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, you could have a tabletop ready model. However, I do like, with my Warmachine stuff, I do like to have that little bit of extra definition, because they're quite a, to my eye anyway, it's quite a cartoony-esque kind of aesthetic. And I like to lean into that with a little bit of that sort of brighter edge highlighting and stuff like that. So with our Arctic Gem, just make sure we're taking enough of it off the brush. I want to take the side of my brush, and we'll start down here, and just bring in that little edge right there. And that's kind of what I want to aim for here. So I don't want to do every edge on the model, but I want to do enough that particularly shapes that are in amongst other blue areas are a bit more defined. So it's just a matter of going over those edges like that. And then also you can see on the rivets, because there's a lot of rivet detail, what I want to do with those is just give them just a little touch of that Arctic Gem. Almost using the side of the brush to hit the edge and the rivet at the same time there. So that's what I'm aiming for, just to bring that definition back up again. And when that's done, we'll come back and we'll start highlighting the other colors. We have the black to do yet as well. With our blue armor highlighted, what I also did very quickly is take some inner light, which is the base color we used for the yellow, and just touched up the rivet detail and edging detail on the eagle up there as well. And it just brightens that up a little bit, stops it looking just as muddy as it did. Now we're going to move on to highlighting our black. And for our black, we're going to be using Stratos blue. We keep it in the blues. They seem to work. That sort of bluey grey works very well with highlighting the likes of black and dark greys. So, same principle as before. We will hit some of the rivet details. So if I can get a good shot on that. And you can see it's not quite as bright as the blue highlight, but it does make that black detail sort of stand out a little bit more. So again, we're just going to go around the model and highlight what we need to. With our black now highlighted, we have basically all the definition that we want with not too much effort and not too many colors being used. So I'm happy enough to say that that armor is more or less done. So we're going to be moving on to a couple of little details I really want to make sure stand out. One is these coils on his back. I was thinking of doing the eyes in here, but honestly, if you're going to be a beginner, you could afford to just leave those out, I think. But what I do want to do is the coils on the back and the runes on the gun barrels. So for that, I'm going with Bright Sapphire, which is a very light blue. And let me quickly do the guns first to show you what I'm trying to aim for here. Look at some of that on the palette. And the coils will be easy enough because we're just going to base coat them in this blue. But it's the guns that I want to show because I want to fill that runic sort of detail with the paint. And I need to take a hold of this quite carefully here. So what I'm aiming to do is, if I need more water on my brush, I think maybe. Very wet brush, very little paint. And we just want to touch the brush into the detail until the paint starts to bleed in. Sort of like that. And do that so we get a sort of an energized sort of look to it. So we're going to do that on the guns, and then after that we will base coat these coils on his back as well. So when we come back, we'll be looking at that hopefully and see what we do next. So with our light blue down, let's have a look. It's settled okay into the runes on the guns. Looks okay, and settled quite nicely. It's very bright up there on the coils. So I've also did a little bit in the visor, but I'm not too happy with that, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. What we're going to move on to now is a little bit of blue tone, and this is just going to be purely for those coils that we've just base coated. So the idea is to get a bit of shading down onto them, and then after that, maybe just tidy them up a bit with the base blue paint again. So we're just going to just let that sink into those coils like that. And it gives us a nice little bit of contrast going on there. And we'll probably do a little bit up on the top of each one of these as well. And I think this would, after this dries, I think this would benefit with a little bit of tidy up with the base blue as well, just to brighten it up again. So we'll do this, and then we'll take the bright blue and tidy it up. And I think, to be fair, we'll do that off camera because this is going to be the last step, and we can show you that all done when the model is completely finished. So once this is done, I'll just reiterate, we're going to go back over that base light blue again with the same color just to brighten it up again after the wash is dry. Then the model is going to get a matte varnish, then we'll do the basing, and when we come back, the model will be completely done. And here we have Deuce all finished. So what I did off camera was, once the blue had dried, the blue wash had dried on the coils, I then just touched the edges of the coils with the base lighter blue again. I also forgot to add some blue into that venting on the front you can see there, just below the below those big golden sort of guard shaped things. So I added a little bit of blue in there just to give it a bit more life, make it stand out a little touch more from the front. All in all, with the basing and the matte varnish and all down, it's looking really good. I'm really quite happy with that. It is definitely something you'd look at on the tabletop and be quite happy to field, as well as maybe quite happy to face it. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope this guy serves whoever is playing him in the Let's Play as well as much as I enjoyed painting him. So, until next time, thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, and see you again very soon.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.